Hello, and welcome back to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, so I hope you are sitting comfortably right now. Or maybe you're driving on a long, straight highway or just kind of staring up at the ceiling.
The staring at the ceiling vibe is highly recommended for this one.
Highly recommended. Because today we are going to do something a little, well, a little dangerous. We are about to step outside the clock. Literally.
That is the plan. We're totally abandoning the linear flow today.
We are, and we're initiating a very specific vibe for this one. I want you to really lean into a sort of late night chat atmosphere.
Oh, absolutely.
You know that feeling when it's like 2:00 a.m., the rest of the world has gone completely quiet, the notifications are finally turned off, and it's just you and a friend discussing absolutely mind-bending ideas.
The kind that make you question if the floor is actually solid.
Exactly. That is exactly where we're going today.
It really is the perfect atmosphere for this particular material. I mean, when you are dealing with concepts that dismantle your basic perception of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you need a bit of quiet space to let it land.
You really do.
You just can't process this stuff while you're multitasking.
No, you can't. We are stepping way outside the daily grind. So today we are cracking open a very specific, a very fascinating document. We are looking at session 433 of the Early Sessions Book 9 of the Seth Material.
A classic session.
Such a good one.
And this was recorded on Monday, September 2, 1968.
Right. September 2, 1968. So in a purely linear sense, we are traveling back over 50 years.
Yeah.
But considering the whole topic today is the end of time, or rather the illusion of time, citing a specific date feels almost ironic, doesn't it?
Extremely ironic. I was thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But I guess it's necessary for our current reference points.
Yeah, we have to start somewhere on the timeline to talk about why the timeline doesn't actually exist. Touché. So our mission today is to unpack a really specific concept that Seth, who is the entity channeled by Jane Roberts, presents in this session.
And it's a big one.
It is. It's the idea that time isn't a fundamental law of physics. Like, we usually think of time the way we think of gravity, right? But Seth describes it as a protective device.
Which is wild.
Totally wild. So we're going to look at what non-time actually looks like, how multidimensional beings socialize.
Which turns out to be surprisingly bureaucratic, by the way.
Hilariously so. And we'll also get into the truly terrifying reason why your enemies might be stuck with you a lot longer than your friends.
It is a dense session, but it is incredibly rewarding if you stay with it. I mean, it reframes the entire human experience.
It does. Now, before we jump into the deep end, we always have to give credit where it's due. This material is published by the New Awareness Network.
Right.
And a very quick disclaimer for everyone listening right now. This deep dive is distributed free of charge on all major platforms for educational purposes. We aren't, selling you a new calendar system here.
Absolutely not. We are just here to explore the ideas, weigh them, and see what they tell us about the human experience.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Seth starts right out of the gate with this idea of time structure. And he completely contradicts what most of us learn in school.
Yeah, he turns it upside down.
We usually think of time as a container, like the thing that everything happens in.
Like a river, we are all just floating down together.
Exactly, but Seth calls it an aid.
Right, and not just an aid, but specifically a protective device.
Right.
And that is a very deliberate choice of words. It implies danger. I mean, if you need a protective device, it means the raw element you're dealing with is highly volatile.
It's like wearing lead gloves to handle uranium.
That's a great way to put it.
It sounds like safety gear, like a helmet or a roll bar on a Jeep.
Or a dosage regulator. That is actually the analogy that comes to mind when you read the text closely. Seth says to a large extent, it limits perception.
And we usually hate limits.
Oh, especially in Western culture. We despise limits. We want to be completely limitless. Infinite bandwidth, instant downloads, all of it.
But Seth is arguing that we need them.
He's saying that for where we are right now in our development, we absolutely need those limits just to survive.
Because we, what? Like overdose on reality?
Essentially, yes. He says time gives us experience in slow and small doses.
Low and small doses.
Yeah. I want you to try a little thought experiment. Just imagine if everything you have ever experienced, every birthday, every single breakup, every meal you've ever eaten, every thought, every dream, every embarrassment.
Oh, God, not the embarrassments.
All of it. Imagine it all happened simultaneously in a single compressed nanosecond.
My brain would just melt. It would be pure noise, just screaming white noise.
Exactly. The physical organism, as it's currently structured, just isn't built to handle that level of intensity all at once.
It would fry the circuits.
It would be entirely destructive. It would burn out your nervous system in an instant. So time spreads it out. It takes this massive influx of raw reality, and it just drips it into the IV one drop at a time so we can actually process it.
So Monday is a dose. Tuesday is a dose.
Yep.
And I guess sleep is maybe a pause button.
Precisely. And the implication here is that we are in a training phase. We are, as he puts it, learning to handle perception and experience.
Well, it's like training wheels.
Totally. You don't put a toddler on a Ducati motorcycle, you give him a plastic tricycle. Time is our tricycle. We are pedaling around the driveway thinking we're going incredibly fast, but really we're just learning how to steer.
But the goal isn't to stay on the tricycle forever, right? That's the catch.
No, not at all. And that is where it gets really interesting. Seth talks about this thing he calls the shift.
The shift.
Yeah. He says the doses become larger. Finally, you can sample experience without these limitations. And that is the state he calls non-time.
Non-time. It sounds like a sci-fi concept or maybe just a dark void. But he doesn't describe it that way. He describes it as a state of freedom.
It is the ultimate freedom. It's the freedom to organize your experience along your own lines, rather than having it rigidly dictated by a clock or a calendar.
Right, because in our world, if you want to learn a skill, you just have to wait for the hours to pass while you practice.
You plant a seed, you wait for the sun to rise and set 30 times.
But in non-time, the realization is immediate.
It is, and he makes this distinction that I think is absolutely crucial for understanding the mechanics of how this works. He says eventually we won't need to see thoughts materialized in physical matter to understand them.
This is a core Seth concept, and it always trips people up. Because we tend to think matter is the real stuff, this table, this microphone.
And thoughts are just gas. Ephemeral, nothing.
Exactly. But Seth flips it completely. He says thoughts are the basic reality.
Yes.
Physical matter is just the thought slowed down and frozen so we can look at it.
It's like a 3D print of a digital file. The digital file is the actual data. The print is just a clunky plastic representation of it.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
So in our current state, in the time state, we need the 3D print.
We do. Say you have a deep-seated fear of abandonment. You manifest it physically. Maybe a partner leaves you, or you lose a job.
And then we look at that event and say, oh, that hurts. That is what that fear actually looks like.
Right, it's a learning mechanism. We paint our psyche onto the canvas of the physical world so we can step back and see it.
But in non-time.
In non-time, you understand the reality of the thought directly. You don't need to print it out anymore. You perceive the file itself.
That is wild. So you can just dispense with the mass images, the physical stuff, because you get the point immediately.
And just imagine the efficiency of that. You aren't waiting years to see the fruit of your labor. The realization is instantaneous. You think it, and you experience the profound reality of it without the lag time of physical construction.
But I have to ask, doesn't that get lonely?
How do you mean?
Well, physical matter is how we interact. If I can't meet you for coffee because there is no coffee and there is no 2.0 p.m., how do we hang out? How do we socialize in the void?
Seth addresses this directly, actually, because he knows we get scared of these metaphysical states. We think they imply isolation. We think spirit just means floating alone in a misty cloud forever.
Right.
He says the barriers vanish, but interactions always exist. In fact, relationships go far further.
Which brings us to my absolute favorite part of this session, the entity mixer.
The cocktail party of the soul.
Yes. Okay, so Seth breaks down how these larger selves, what he calls entities, interact with each other. And it is not at all what I expected. It's surprisingly bureaucratic, or maybe strategic is the better word.
Strategic is a very good word for it. It's highly sophisticated.
Right.
Well, we should probably define the terms first.
Good idea.
Seth distinguishes between the personality, that's you listening to this,
Yeah.
and me sitting right here,
Meh.
and the entity, which is the whole self. The entity is the multidimensional consciousness that contains many personalities, perhaps from entirely different lifetimes or different realities.
Like a team roster. The entity is the whole football club. The personalities are just the players currently on the field.
That works perfectly. So let's say entity A meets entity B in non-time. They want to interact, but maybe the whole entity is just too vast to mesh all at once. It would be too much energy, too chaotic.
So what do?
They introduce specific portions of themselves to one another. Seth says Self-4 personality of entity A may get along quite nicely with B's self-6.
I love that so much. Hey, send in number 4. He's charming. He'll get along great with their number 6.
Sounds like matchmaking.
Or diplomacy. Send the ambassador who likes tea, because they really like tea over there.
It really is exactly like that. They find the points of compatibility. It's a rapport. They are actively looking for resonance, plugging in the connectors that fit best.
But then he talks about the conflict. What happens if the roster doesn't match up?
He says A's self-2 and B's self-2 may not get along well at all.
A2 and B2 are just at each other's throats. They clash. Complete oil and water.
Right. Now, in our human world, if two people clash, we usually have a ton of drama. We try to force it, or we fight, or we have a messy breakup, or we literally start a war.
But what do the entities do?
They don't force it. They just shift. They swap out those personalities for ones that have a better rapport.
It's hilarious to think about just, okay, pull A2 out of the game. He's causing a scene. Put in A4. A4 is a diplomat.
It highlights that the entity, the greater self, is not attached to the drama in the way this specific personality is.
That makes sense.
The entity just wants productive interaction. If A2 and B2 are clashing, that's not productive for the relationship between the entities, so they just use a different interface. They're deeply practical.
It makes you wonder, right? In our daily lives, when we just instantly click with someone, like you meet a total stranger at a party and suddenly you're best friends 5 minutes later, is that because self-4 just met self-6?
And conversely, when you meet someone and there's just instant, inexplicable friction, you see someone and your hackles go up before they even speak a single word to you.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe that is the self-2 dynamic, recognizing an immediate incompatibility.
And the big boss upstairs is just shaking their head going, abort, abort, wrong matchup. Let's try a completely different angle tomorrow.
But notice the incredible freedom in that. In non-time, there are no physical barriers separating these portions. They exist and interact freely. Seth actually mentions that he speaks with Jane the medium because we get on so well.
He actually says he found her system emotionally satisfying, which is just a lovely compliment from a multidimensional ghost. You are emotionally satisfying to haunt.
It implies that even across these vast dimensions, emotional resonance is the key. It's the primary connector. The intellect isn't the primary bond. The feeling tone is what matters.
But this brings up a really thorny issue. We're talking about these cosmic connections, personalities mixing and matching freely in the multiverse. But what about the people we are actually stuck with here?
You mean our families?
Yeah, our families. The people we didn't consciously choose.
This is where the session gets a little chilling.
Yeah. Seth drops a bit of a bomb about family ties here.
He really does. We tend to have this very romantic idea that our physical family is our soul family, that we're destined to be with them forever across eternity.
Love creates an eternal bond and all that.
Right. We see it in movies constantly, the whole clan joyously reunited in heaven.
And Seth says, not so much.
He says, there are mothers and fathers that you have forgotten and children that you do not know.
Ouch. That hits hard. Children that you do not know.
He says, psychically and subjectively, the relationship simply did not take.
Did not take. Like a failed organ transplant or a seed that just fell on solid concrete.
Exactly. He says you aren't burdened with them and they aren't burdened with you. Once the physical framework, the time structure dissolves, if there wasn't something much deeper holding you together, the relationship dissolves too.
It was just a role you played for a time.
Like actors in a play. Once the curtain falls, you don't necessarily hang out with the other actors if you didn't really like them.
So what's the criterion then? If DNA isn't the glue, what is? Why do some stick and some just dissolve?
It comes down to intensity and creativity. He specifically lists 3 things: a creative impetus, a spark, or a challenge.
Okay, so there has to be movement, energy.
Yes. If you just existed alongside each other, polite, maybe got along quite well, as he puts it, but there was no strong love and no strong challenge, then the bond dissolves.
The meh factor.
Exactly. Indifference is the ultimate relationship killer in the afterlife. If it was lukewarm, it just fades away. You drift apart naturally because there is no magnetic pull anymore. You simply vibrate at different rates and stop perceiving each other.
But then he drops the twist. And this is the part that I think will seriously haunt some of our listeners today.
The hatred.
If ever hatred was generated,
Then the relationship usually continued in one way or another through several existences.
That is a cruel irony, isn't it? You can drift away from your polite neighbor who you borrowed sugar from for 20 years. But your mortal enemy, the person you absolutely despise, you are handcuffed to them.
Until it is worked out. That is the key phrase there. Hatred binds you just as tightly as love, perhaps even tighter, because it's a knot that aggressively demands to be untied.
That's a great way to visualize it.
Hatred is a form of intense focus. And remember, we create our reality through focus. If you focus intensely on how much you hate someone, you are magnetically chaining yourself to them. You are constantly broadcasting, this person is important to me.
It's a chilling thought, just like we said in the intro. You think, I can't wait to die so I never have to see this awful person again. And the universe just says, actually, see you in the next round. You haven't learned the lesson yet.
It reframes how we look at conflict entirely. I mean, if you realize that this person driving you crazy is essentially your travel companion until you solve the puzzle of your dynamic, you might be a lot more motivated to solve it right now.
Instead of kicking the can down the road to the next life, I'll deal with him in the next incarnation, is a terrible strategy.
Precisely. Because in a multidimensional sense, there is no escape through avoidance. There is only escape through understanding and resolution.
You have to neutralize the charge.
You do. You have to turn that hatred into understanding, or at the very least, neutral detachment.
Speaking of roads, Seth uses this massive analogy of the road to explain how we create time systems in the first place. And this really helped me visualize what he's talking about because time systems can feel very, very abstract.
It is a beautiful metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
He compares building a time system, which is basically a reality framework like the one we live in, to men building a road.
So walk us through this. We build this road to get from point A to point B.
Right. Imagine a vast landscape, a huge open field. That field is non-time. That is pure, unmanifested potential. Now, a man or a consciousness wants to create a specific linear experience. So he builds a path to his garden. Or a group of men build a massive national highway.
It's a construct.
Exactly. It's a tool built to get somewhere specific.
But here is the trap.
The trap is that we completely forget we built it.
We think the road is the world.
Yes. We believe we are bound to the road. We think we absolutely have to follow the pavement. We forget that on either side of the road, there are fields, forests, entire other landscapes.
We think if we step off the asphalt, we just fall into nothingness.
And the multidimensional personalities, the ones who are awake, what do?
They know they can leave the road.
They realize they made the road in the first place. So they aren't slaves to it. They can walk through the fields. They can perceive other realities that exist simultaneously alongside the road. They can cross the road, fly over it, or ignore it entirely.
Seth says multidimensional personalities do not need to forget.
And that's the crucial difference. We have chosen to forget, so we can really focus on the road. I mean, if you're driving at 100 miles per hour, you need to focus on the asphalt. If you're busy looking at the lovely scenery in the fields, you crash.
We need a narrow focus to master physical manipulation.
Yes. But Seth is reminding us, you are the road builder, not just the traveler. And did you catch the reference to archaeology in that section?
I did. Ruined time structures.
Ruined time structures as well as ruined physical structures.
That sounded so evocative, like cosmic ruins.
It implies that there are realities that were built, used for a while, and then simply abandoned. The purpose for them no longer exists.
That gives you this sense of a vast, ancient cosmos filled with the remnants of different experiments in reality.
It really makes our current version of Earth feel, I don't know, temporary. Just one road among millions.
Which flows right into his next analogy. He takes this even further with the game analogy. And this is where the humor really comes in for me, but also a bit of an existential crisis.
He explicitly says you could say that various time systems are like games.
And every game has rules.
And goals. But here is the kicker. The rule of Earth, the primary rule of our specific game, is that you forget you are playing a game.
That's the rule.
That is the rule. In order to play this game properly, you have to have total immersion. You have to believe the stakes are absolutely real.
Because if you knew it was a game, you wouldn't take it seriously.
Exactly. Imagine watching a really scary movie or a heartbreaking drama. If you were constantly reminding yourself, these are just actors, that's a set, that's CGI, that's just ketchup, not blood.
You don't feel anything.
Right. You don't cry. You don't get scared. You entirely miss the experience. To get the emotional payoff, you have to suspend disbelief.
So our entire lives, all our struggles, our traumas, our dramas, our time, it's all a massive exercise in suspended disbelief.
For a purpose.
Right. He says it's not just for fun. It's not just cosmic entertainment. We aren't just Netflix for the gods.
Playing the game will sharpen your perceptions. It's a very intense training simulation. By dealing with these slow doses of time and matter, we are developing qualities like empathy, focus, creativity, decision-making. And we get to keep those when the game is over.
And then he makes that joke.
Oh, I love this part. How you do in the game will affect your score elsewhere.
It's so arcade.
It's Seth's dry wit for sure. But it points to something very real. The growth is real, even if the context is an illusion.
The muscles you build in the gym are real muscles, even if you aren't actually lifting heavy rocks for survival in the wild.
We are in the gym of consciousness. The weights, our daily problems, are artificial, but the strength we gain from lifting them is permanent.
It's comforting, in a way, but also weird to think that my stress about my mortgage is just game mechanics.
It allows for a bit of healthy detachment. You can play hard, but you don't have to be completely destroyed by the loss. You can look at a problem and say, a level boss. Difficult, but just pixels.
Okay, we have to talk about Willie.
The cat paradox.
This is such a great grounding moment in this session. Jane is in a deep trance, channeling this profound cosmic wisdom. Her husband, Rob, is scribbling notes furiously, and in the background, their cat, Willie, is just asleep in a chair.
And suddenly, chaos.
Willie vaults from the chair. Rob writes, instantly alert, it seemed in a second, just prowling around, looking for something unseen.
And Seth, being Seth, doesn't get interrupted. He doesn't say, hey, catch the cat. He weaves the cat's behavior right into the middle of the lecture.
He uses Willie to explain how animals perceive time, because clearly Willie was reacting to something Rob couldn't see.
Seth says humans are the only ones who play this time game with any real facility. Animals, plants, rocks, they don't do serial time.
They don't have a past and a future.
Not in the way we do. They don't stretch experience out into a long line. They experience intensities.
This is a tricky concept, intensity versus duration.
Seth explains that for the cat, the present moment is incredibly vivid. It's an absolute explosion of sensory data. It's acute. The cat hears a mouse, feels the air currents, smells the dust, all at maximum volume.
So the cat is 100% here, right now.
Yes, but here's the trade-off. We humans, in order to build our road of time, in order to see the past and plan for the future, we had to dilute that intensity.
We traded depth for width.
Exactly. We gained scope. We can see the timeline. We can build civilizations. We can remember history. But we lost that raw electric connection to the immediate now that the cat has.
So we're kind of numb compared to the cat.
In a sense, yes. We are spread thin. Our consciousness is smeared across yesterday and tomorrow, so there's simply less of it available for right now.
But Jane, after the session is over, she gets this download of information that clarifies the goal. Because it sounds like we went backward. If the cat is more alive than us, did we devolve?
Jane explains that this isn't a permanent loss. It's an evolutionary step. We gave up the animal intensity to gain the human scope, the time, but the next stage
Is to have both.
That is the ultimate evolution of consciousness. To have the broad, multidimensional scope, the ability to understand past, present, future, and probable realities, combined with that raw, electric, vivid intensity of the animal.
That sounds overwhelming again. Back to the overdose idea.
It brings us right back to the beginning. We need the protective device of time until we are strong enough to handle that level of reality. Non-time isn't just having no clock. Non-time is high-definition, surround sound, omniscient reality.
And we are currently just in the kiddie pool getting ready for the ocean.
That is exactly the vibe. We are learning to swim in the shallow end.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? We've talked about entity mixers, sticky hatred, time roads, and intense cats. It's a lot to process on a Monday.
It means we can relax a little bit.
Relax.
Yes, if you realize that time is just a protective device, you stop fighting it quite so much. You stop feeling like you're constantly running out of it. It's there to help you pace yourself. You're exactly where you need to be on the road.
And the relationship stuff.
It invites us to look at our relationships with a much clearer eye. Who are you sparking with? Who are you hating? That is where the real work is happening. That is the roster change happening in real time. If you have a nemesis, maybe it's time to figure out why before you book another ticket with them for the next life.
And the game aspect.
It allows you to take life seriously, but not too seriously. You can play the game with passion, knowing that if you lose a round or if the road gets bumpy, it's just a construct. You built the road, you could eventually walk in the fields.
That is a very liberating thought.
It connects back to that quote from the session that I think really sums this whole thing up.
A 5% quote. I have it right here, Seth says. In your theory of time, however you believe yourselves bound to the road, do not realize that you have made it, and are unable to perceive other realities. You have chosen to do this, however. Multidimensional personalities do not need to forget.
You have chosen to do this. That is the empowering part. We aren't victims of time. We are the architects of it.
We put on the blinders so we could focus on the task at hand.
And every now and then, like in a deep dive like this, we peek around the edge of the blinders and remember who we really are.
A chilling thought, but in the best possible way.
Indeed.
Listen, if your brain is buzzing as much as mine is, you need to go directly to the source. We are just scratching the surface of what is in session 433, let alone the rest of the book.
This is deep material. It richly rewards study. You can't just hear it once, you have to sit with it.
We strongly encourage you to study the Seth Material books and visit the new Awareness Network website and bookstore at sethcenter.com/the-early-sessions. Go there, get the books, read the raw data.
It's well worth the trip.
Thank you for joining us on this late-night drive down the time road. Try not to take the game too seriously this week.
And watch out for the cats. They know more than they're letting on.
They always do. See you in non-time.